Check, check, quick sound check. Can everybody hear us loud and clear? What's going on, Coach Paul?
Hey, Coach Jake, can hear you loud and clear. Welcome at the buzzers.
Welcome to our buzzer beaters. How is everybody doing today? Let us know how your day went. Were you up on the day, down on the day? Maybe you didn't trade today. Anything you could have learned for the day. Got the confirmation from Andrew. Audio, video is good. Thank you, Andrew, as always, for watching our back. Welcome, everyone, to At the Buzz, our market recap. If this is your first time here, I'm Coach Jay. That is Coach Paul. The goal of this segment is to review what happened in the markets for the day. We may talk about some markets that you have not traded before, but we believe our goal as traders is to identify opportunity, see how we could have taken advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. If this is your first time here, I'm Coach Jay. Been a Topstep Performance Coach since June of 2023. Been trading for the past 12 years and in the futures markets for the past 5. And that is Coach Paul. Coach Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Coach Paul. I've been with Topstep as a performance coach for a year and a half. I have 4 decades experience in trading of futures. I'm here to share my experience and knowledge and hopefully assist you into becoming a better trader.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Coach Paul. Let's see what we got in the chat for some of our traders. I saw Coach Hoop said he traded well, traded cattle and nat gas. YY did horrible. Almost lost my XFA on the first day. Manage your accounts. Manage your accounts. Manage your accounts. Give yourself more than one shot before the account is gone. JG says crushed it today. Green solid day from Enzo. Green machine, green today. It's in the name. You got to be green.
Yes.
Passed my first combine today from Sharon T. Sharon, I saw you mention that during the daytime show.
Nice.
Congrats on passing your first combine. No rush in that XFA. Remember, the goal is consistency over time, and money follows that, right? Money follows trading a consistent plan over time and not trying to force dollars into your account. But congratulations. Ali
Yes,
Car-
congratulations.
Ali Cara says $1 from passing, then ended 1K down. It's tough. You're not the only person that's happened it to. You've heard Dolby on the show mention that he was, I think, 90 cents away from passing a combine, and it ended up being a blown combine. Let's not make that your story, right? When you're $1 away, there are some things that you can do. Maybe trade micros if you're already not trading micros. But we want to try not to make those logistical changes and cut it that close. Just trade, let a great opportunity present itself to you, and go from there. But if you're down 1K on the day, that's fine. You have a lot of time to recover that account and get it back across the finish line. Just focus on taking good trades. How was your trading day today, Coach? Oh, Coach, you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
We got you.
All right. Yeah, I had a decent day. I lost some money in the micro Bitcoin, but the Treasury's shorts saved my day, so I did okay.
Just $5 short from whatever you ended your day. I'm gonna need you to send me 5. But great day, Coach. Tom, shout out to Tom. 5,500 across 4 XFAs. Great trading, Tom. Keep that up. For me, I had a losing day. Tried to buy nat gas after inventories, got stopped out. Tried to trade the NASDAQ on a breakout. It didn't break out anywhere. It stayed in that range for a little while. So losing day for me, but okay day, manageable losing day, and we'll get back to it tomorrow. Let's talk about the news that we had. We know we had PPI coming out this morning, a little bit higher than expected. 0.4% was actual. Forecasted number was 0.2%, and that was for the. Let me make sure I get this right. That was for the year-over-year number. Month over month, 3.4%. What was forecasted was 3.2. I think the bigger number today, and we get this every Thursday, but jobless claims, 242,000 was the actual reported, and the forecast was 220,000. We also had a ECB rate decision where it looks like they cut their rates. But then outside of that, pretty quiet. I think we had a 30-year auction as well, Coach. But that's the news for the week. Now we look forward to FOMC as far as news goes.
And when is that, Coach?
Next week, Wednesday, last Fed rate decision for the year. And if I'm looking at the Fed Watch tool right now, it looks like we are going to probably get a 25 basis point cut, 94.7% probability of a 25 basis point cut.
No, bonds didn't seem to believe in that,
Right.
but interesting. Yeah, the PPI number came out bigger than expected, and we've been talking about that.
Yep.
Um, so where do we go from here?
Where do we go? I see some people in the chat saying what just happened to the NASDAQ. It just went crazy. It did. It looks like we had Broadcom earnings, which is a semiconductor company. Broadcom just released their earnings. Maybe not one of the bigger ones that we have out there, but going to be important just for that sector in general. And that's the reaction that we're seeing in the NASDAQ right now. Or maybe it was Costco, right? Maybe it was Costco's earnings. But
Or maybe it was short covering. We don't know.
we don't know.
Funny, went right to where it was an hour ago.
Right.
But NASDAQ is a complete different story than the S&P.
Completely different. Completely different. Let's look at our quote board here. Let's see what we have for percentage movers on the day. There are about 35 different markets that we can trade with Topstep accounts, not just the equities. And to the downside, if we look at this quote board, a lot of it was red today. I think we only had 6 markets that were green. But to the downside, we have micro Bitcoin futures down 1.61%, gold down 1.79%, and silver, our biggest percentage mover, to the downside at 4.22%. To the upside, we had soybean oil up 0.57%, heating oil up 0.66%, and nat gas, our biggest percentage mover, to the upside at 3.05%. Nat gas is consistently in the top or bottom of these percentage movers every day. I think yesterday it was the top percentage mover to the downside, and then, of course, today to the upside. Actually, no, yesterday was upside as well. Great market to trade, presenting some really good opportunities if you're patient. And I want to take a look at nat gas when we talk about the energies. To round out our big four, we already talked about gold, but we had crude oil down 0.3%, and the S&P down 0.51%, and NASDAQ down 0.59%. I have a NASDAQ chart up here right now, and let's look at it. Here's last night's open, Coach.
Yeah.
Kind of have it framed out here. We talked about this a little bit yesterday, maybe not expecting so much in the overnight session because the market's potentially going to wait for that PPI number to come out. It's kind of exactly what we got. Range bound market overnight last night. If you wanted to fade the extremes of the range and, take something out of this 20-point range, more power to you. But difficult range to really trade, in my opinion. But you could have been getting short at these highs, which would have turned out to be a great trade for the day. But feels very 50-50 when we see the markets like this, right? It hasn't chosen a direction and just going to stay in that range. But as we start to get closer into the New York session, maybe into London, London started to sell a little bit. And I'm going to consider the start of the day the PPI candle. So here is that 30-minute PPI candle. If we look at a 3-minute, it's very similar. It's pretty much the entire range in about 6 minutes or so. That ended up being the range for the day.
And still is, for all
And
intents and purposes.
and still is. We can see if we attach VWAP to that news candle, right? And this is now the first 3 minutes. This is 7:30 Central Time. That volume never left the range and was pretty much a flat line all day. So what does that tell us? Find the extremes of the range. It made it pretty easy. If you framed out, remember this frame is on the 30-minute chart. If we did the 3-minute, it would look a little bit. It looked like that. But kind of just framing out the volatility that news that news brought to the markets, and those are your extremes, right? So you're fading the extremes, you're selling at the highs, buying at the lows, or you're doing what Coach Jay did and trying to buy a breakout that ultimately doesn't break out. But if you look at overall what the market said, VWAP was flat. There was really no volume moving the market in either direction today. We were very happy with trading in this 80-point range here.
And VWAP, yeah, like you said, it's really never got going.
Right. Yeah, never got going. And Rich Layton just asked a question: frame the news, not the opening 9:30 high candle. You can, right? So the way I usually go about this is when we have news, I'll frame out the news first, and then when we go to 9:30, sometimes 9:30 is higher volume than the news. Sometimes it's not, right? But in this case, yep, that's exactly what I would do. Frame out 9:30. We'll make 9:30 purple, and we'll see pretty much the same thing. VWAP never left that range either. Almost an immediate overlap. Very tight range here. Range bound traders, this is your opportunity, right? Days like this is where you're fading at the extremes, and if you're doing it in the NASDAQ, there's 60-point moves where if you're capturing 50% of that, that's a great trading day. Go ahead, Coach.
If you, like I said, if you collected half of that,
Right.
good on you. Or if you didn't trade,
That too.
some days, if you, it comes down to planning your trade and trading your plan. If this wasn't in it for you and you didn't trade, that's a good trade.
100%. Yeah, pretty range bound day. We did have a fairly, pretty big day yesterday. Where can I see the leaderboard? The leaderboard is in the shop right now. It's getting a tire rotation, and we'll probably be back up 2025. But it's not listed anywhere. That might change. It might go on the Topstep website at some point. But the leaderboard is usually shared on during fast markets on Topstep TV. But after yesterday, we had this rally. We almost had a 2% update in the NASDAQ. Not surprised to see a little bit of a consolidation. Market kind of digesting new all-time highs and go from there. I'll look at a daily real quick, Coach, and then I want to do a comparison. The S&Ps looked a little different. I think the Dow and the Russell were probably, again, the markets that you wanted to trade if you were looking for trends in the equities today. What are you seeing on this daily chart in the NASDAQ, Coach?
I see a less than 50% correction of yesterday's up move. I see that money is going to tech and not the other sectors. I mean, maybe I have a flair for the obvious.
It's going up.
But it's it was very tight. I didn't make a trade in there.
Yeah.
Doesn't look like a top to me. Is it? I probably won't put in a trade until tomorrow if I get some new information off the opening. But onward and upward, and from a technical point of view.
Agreed. We can see the low of the day, kind of 50% of yesterday's range. Almost a perfect test there, and then we bounce off of it. I think that bounce actually just happened into this close. Yep. Right to 50% of it, and then we bounce. Of course, we're not trading Topstep accounts at this time. Your trades need to be closed by 3:10 Central Time, but gotta love when you see that happen. Let's look at the S&Ps, maybe a little different on the day. We'll go to a 30-minute in the S&Ps. Look at last night's open. And go ahead, Coach.
All right. Well, let's put a VWAP on there. It was a completely different animal. Liquidation trades, a slow grind down overnight, and then from the news candle, basically covered that range from last night. Right, settled right in the middle, and new VWAP kept it going. I believe it's under the 200-day moving average, a 200 bar moving average
On the daily or the
on
30?
on the
On the
30.
30. Got you. Yep. White line there.
We didn't recover. Um, so it was a better range. To me, a more defined trade for a short side. But it still has the makings of days where if you're not disciplined, you could get into trouble. This is a classic example of why I'm only looking to buy it or sell it. I rarely trade both sides of the market in that range after that candle. It What can you say? We're also in the roll.
Yep. Got a
Um,
question there from Segi. When does rollover end for the equity markets? I'm looking at quant hour. So remember, rollover in Topstep X, you don't have to worry about. It'll roll when the volume switches from one contract to the other. I'm looking at quant hour, and it has the expiration date as the 20th, so December 20th. But usually, we'll see that volume flip sometime halfway through the week of the expiration, right? So somewhere around the 17th, 18th, we'll have that volume flip, so you can expect it around there. But the contracts expire on the 20th. Coach, how much attention do you give to rollover in your trading?
I'm aware of it. Um, I still make the same decisions.
Mhm.
Um, I know that it can have an effect on a short term on volume. Because as the roll starts going to March, you'll have volume spikes and lesser volume in the D's, where you have spikes in the March. Just to be aware of that. But it shouldn't affect VWAP. And I put most of my weight and volume in VWAP. So while I'm aware, it doesn't really change my trading decisions. How about you?
I'm aware of it. The one thing I'll keep in mind is that we may have some more consolidated days, but that could happen at any time. Like you said, I use VWAP to see whether or not the markets are trending or consolidated, and that can happen during rollover. That can happen just during a slow day. So I'll give more weight to that as well. Um, I thought you were going to use the Frank's Red Hot slogan when you talked about VWAP, Coach. Uh, I love VWAP. I put that shit on everything.
I mean,
Um, but let's look at the Dow really quick. But I do love VWAP, and I do put that shit on everything.
yeah,
Uh,
I do. And Frank's.
that too, that too. If we look at the Dow, and we've been looking at the Dow on a higher time frame, it's been in this downtrend, right? If we look at the 30 on the Dow compared to the 30 on the NASDAQ, NASDAQ's been in an uptrend. We're getting ready to get a test of that 200 moving average on the 30-minute. But the Dow is in a downtrend.
Oh,
Um,
doesn't have any Franks on that.
no, not at all. Uh,
Wow. And we talked about this yesterday. It seems, whatever the reason is, by
yep,
the time we find out the reason,
too late.
it'll be too late. But here's the evidence. From my point of view, the 200 moving average underneath it, I don't want to buy it. If I'm looking in a sell mode, yeah, some plenty of opportunity.
Yep,
But it just continues. So whether it's a tax play, end of the year adjustments, boy, the tale of two different
two
um,
different markets for sure.
indices. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Coming down towards that 50-day moving average potentially. Uh, my eyes on whatever this big candle is right here, and we're closing at the highs of it today. Do we accept back into this price? That's right around that 44,000 even level. Right now we're under 44,000. But does this candle, which was pretty big buying, this was the election candle. Does this act as a support, or do we start to trade back through this? We can see the last time we tested 50% of it, we bounced. Do these buyers now give up this position and let the markets sell through it? So very interesting in the Dow. If you're looking for a market that was downtrending, it's been, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 down days in a row. If you're looking for something to sell, this was it, and maybe the Russell as well, although a more, little more indecisive in the Russell. Anything else on the equities, Coach?
Um, n- Tomorrow's Friday after big numbers. I, I'm not expecting much,
Yeah,
but
ACH.
ACH. Stick to your plan is what I say. And while there's no big news, anything can happen. So, um, I'm just favoring the buying the NASDAQ and selling the Dow for now.
There we
But
go.
otherwise, no big comments from me.
Awesome. So let's move over to gold. Gold back into the range. It looked like we were going to break out. If you guys remember, Wednesday we had Anne Marie on. We were talking about this consolidation range on the daily, and we used Anne Marie's. Come on, we used Anne Marie's measurement, just measuring the range, then stacking it on top of each other. We can see we did. I don't think that's actually where she measured it to. She put it here. Let's copy that one more time. There we go. That looks a little better. The exact range we kind of measured out. This consolidation at the lows. We have this huge selling candle as well. We tested up towards that today, and yesterday we were asking, or sorry, yesterday we were asking, do we continue? Do we get some buyers to step in and trade out of these prices? Does this 2750 become a support? But when you're asking that question, it's the market has to make a decision at these areas, right? The last time we were up at these prices, it decided to sell, and we see it again today. Market decided to sell again. Is this an effect of the PPI number? Maybe, but the selling really looks like it started last night in gold. I know Dakota and I on slow markets last night were looking for a place to buy it, and shout out to anyone in the chat that said you guys are wrong, sell this, because you were right. Um, And the one thing about the markets is opinions can be wrong, but whether or not you act on them and trade them, and when you decide whether or not you're wrong, is important. I was looking to buy gold somewhere near the 40 area, where we did have somewhat of a volume event here. If we look at a shorter time frame, looked like some seller exhaustion down here at these 43s. We got somewhat of a bounce, but if we look on a higher time frame, VWAP from the start of the session never. I mean, it left that opening range to the upside once, but then after that, there wasn't a buyer in sight. And as we got into the Asian session, then into New York, uh, really just got heavy from there. Shout out to go ahead, Coach.
No, continue, Coach. I was just going to say, you mean you you made a bad losing trade?
So the great thing is I didn't take the trade.
There you go. Um,
Didn't take the trade. It didn't look good,
no, and I'm here just to say,
but I could have.
you could. We're going to make bad, and I won't say losing trades. Don't equate them to bad trades for our audience, and if you're new to trading,
Agreed.
some of your best trades can be losing trades when you lose well. If you haven't heard of the book, Best Loser Wins, pick it up. It's that's the biggest. If you're just learning to trade, and especially in futures, learning how to lose well keeps you in the game. So if you bought gold early last night and and lost $100, that's a darn good trade.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because you could have lost a lot more than $100 if you decided that you were right about where gold was going.
And I will put the reverse. If you sold gold last night and you made $100, it's a winning trade, but was that, you left a lot of meat on the bone.
Yeah.
So, as you're learning about trading, bad trade, good trade are not necessarily a result in monetary terms. So, good not taking the trade. Wow.
Yeah, I'm very happy I didn't take that one. Was I looking at something? Was I trying to place my own opinions on the market? I think that was it a little bit. But I also was looking at the higher time frame and saying, over the past couple of days we've been in this uptrend, just looking for it to potentially continue, and it didn't. Right, so I'm okay being completely wrong about where the market is going. It didn't cost me anything, which is great. Sometimes my opinions have cost me a whole lot, so that one was cheap. Um, the I got a question from Beast a lot. How do I get the different colors here? I got my fib retracement settings up here real quick. If you want to just take a screenshot of these or just pause the video. The color settings, 0 and 1 are gray, and then 50% is green, and that's why it just gives me different colors that way. Anything else on gold, coach? So it looked like we were gonna continue to rally, but now we're back under that 200 moving average on the 30.
Boy, it looks like the last big boom and bust cycle on the daily. I mean, look at that. You could make a case for a double top.
Mm,
I mean, it looks very identical. Maybe
to
we
this,
chop,
yeah.
maybe we chop again for the remainder of the year. I don't know. I think tonight might find a place to buy it. And if
Uh,
I'm wrong, I won't lose my account.
there we go.
Uh,
There we go.
by the way, it's a great place to trade micros. It
100%.
really is. I think this is the so it's still in a bull market. And this is a pullback. It's on sale in the
There
short
we go.
term. So you can find a place to take good risk. But
Got a comment.
turbulent is the word that comes to mind.
Agreed. Agreed. Comment from NJ. Love these comments. We see them every day. I'm never gonna get tired of seeing them. Hit the like button. Hit that like button. Thank you, NJ, as always, and to all of you, 765 of you watching and joining us. Hopefully, anything that we're saying is helping you with your trading journey. Remember, anything we say is for educational purposes only, not suggestions to take trades. You have to be responsible for clicking the button, but hopefully, some of the information that we're giving you helps you with clicking that button. And we will continue from there. Let's look at some energies. Crude oil stuck in this range, stuck in the range, stuck in the range. Not a terrible
Home,
trade. Home,
home on
home.
the range.
Yes, it is. Not a terrible trade. I know there was a trader who had messaged me last during fast markets today asking about a short, and we talked about this, right? This 70-50 up to 71 area is the highs of this medium time frame range. We can start calling it a higher time frame range because if you look at it daily, this is where we've been rejecting. So when we opened up, we were trading above 70 in that 70-50 area. In this case, I'd be leaning to the short side if I was going to take a trade in crude. Um, and this is one that if I'm going to trade this, I'm going in with the mindset that I need to set a wide stop. Maybe I'm going 2 ATRs on a 30-minute or above a major level, right? Somewhere above 71. And I'm not going to look at it. I might not look at it all day because it may take forever or it could happen pretty quick. But we can see it, right? We rejected up in this area. No convinced buyers up here if we put a VWAP on the beginning of the day. Same thing, that VWAP never leaves the range to the upside. Price does, but it's kind of empty buying up here. But I think selling anywhere in this range, as long as you had a decent stop where you're not going to get wicked out and it's not going to cost you a whole lot. Maybe you trade some micros just so you can hold on to the position. Was a good short at that point, right? And we can see about $1 move to the downside, almost 2%. And then it got pretty wild, right? It moved right back up, almost 2% move to the downside. Then we got those nat gas inventories that came out. Not sure if those affect crude at all, but right after that inventory number came out, we gave back the entire move and kind of right back up near the highs of that range, which the way I'm reading this, may be another good sell opportunity. Coach, when you look at crude, other than getting sick, what are you seeing when you look at this chart?
It comes back to a term we used to use in the pit. There's the quick and the dead. You're trading that. You got, see money, take money.
Hmm.
Um, that's what it looks like to me. It is not my kind of market. Um, so by the way, I don't even look at it. But when I see this again, you got to be quick. And don't get me wrong, if this can be one of the, if you're doing well here, you good on you. But as we've been talking, it's in a range and it gets violently in the range.
Yep.
Look at that rally. And at one point, if you weren't quick, it did drop to the 200 bar moving average. Did it?
Right.
Right, almost did it sick. There's where you got to be quick. It didn't close it touched it, and what was that? An hour later, it's right back to where it was.
Yeah. Yeah. So be
I
ready to
mean,
take
there
your
was,
profits when you get
um,
them.
yeah, it's there is opportunity. Don't get me wrong. There's opportunity there. And when I talk about it, it's just not my kind of market.
Yep.
Um, so um, it's going to be interesting. What, like we said, we're within dollars of where we started 2024.
Yep.
Um, Now as we grind out of this year, is there a new sheriff in town? I'd like to look at the daily and see where the moving averages are.
Give me 1 second. Let me just move that out of the way. There we go. Daily moving averages. Let's zoom out. Look at all of 2024. Man,
Yeah.
consolidation.
I mean, it's just a microcosm of the year.
Right.
Whatever that pattern is, if you're good, maybe ask, you know, Chatty G or one of those other what to do, because that pattern for the year almost looks like every day. Um, but what is interesting is all these moving averages are getting flat, and
Yep.
it's the average true range on the daily is getting down to $1.50 consistently. I'm
Yeah.
not going to be complacent here. There's going to be room for a move, um, probably in the direction that least expected, right?
Yeah.
So
It'll be
there's,
I kind of want to go back and we zoomed out here and we can go back to 2020 and see really the last time where we had a consolidation like this for an entire year in this market. I'll go back and look at some historical charts and take a look, but this is an entire year's, right? So at some point you got to think that there is a strong move coming out of a consolidation this big. Um, and when it happens, it'll be very obvious because crude is not trending anywhere for the moment. But let's talk about a market that is trending, at least over the past couple of days. Nat gas.
oh boy.
We
Yeah,
are on a daily chart here. Nat gas, our biggest percentage mover to the upside today. Did have nat gas inventories come out today. We are above the 200 daily moving average, coach. On this chart, I know the non-continuation charts will look a little bit different. I think you had yours up near uh, 364, somewhere up there. So not too far from where we are from the highs. But let's look at a 30-minute chart in nat gas. Um,
you
this has been
know,
the go ahead, coach.
we touched it again today, broke through it, but settled underneath.
Okay. What was the price?
But the moving average price is 351.40.
51.4. Okay, got you.
Now it
Right
broke
there.
above, but rejected, but it's still grinding higher. But that's the front month. Well, I'll let you finish. I'm gonna make a copy of all contracts and post it. So
Okay,
continue.
awesome. So, nat gas overnight didn't really do too much. Um, did kind of leave this range at some point, present some trades overnight, but we know there's inventories out. Anytime I think of a number that big, a lot of times I like to look at that as the start of the day, because the markets and the volume are likely going to wait for that number to come out on the day that the print happens. So could you take some trades prior? You could. There were some setups, but just look at the volume here, right, where everything was pretty quiet until inventories came out, and at that point, much different market. I'll go down to a shorter time frame. Look at the 3 minutes for where the inventory print happened. Uh, this 3 minute candle here. And there we go. Uh, I was eager for some reason to trade, and that's why I ended up taking losses. We got this breakout on inventories. I got long somewhere up here. Hey, I'm in the Shark Tank at this point, Coach. Uh, I'm in the Shark Tank, swimming in front of the shark right here. We haven't used that analogy in a little while, but that's exactly what I was doing today. Um, Swimming in front of the shark, market turns around,
Yeah.
stops me out, and then stops at 50%. My stop was at this 50% where, you know, that's really where my entry should have been because VWAP didn't leave the range. And then we look at it, right? A 4% move after that with really no drawdown if I was patient enough to wait for my entry or have a stop on the other side of the range. I wasn't, and I paid for it. This to me is just a case of, hey, just wait, let the markets present itself. And Coach Hoop says, what a mover. This is a great move, right? This is an hour into the regular trading hour session, right? If you come to the markets trading equities to start, if the NASDAQ or the S&Ps or whatever you trade wasn't presenting a great trade to you, take a look at nat gas after these inventories, and this could have been your one for the day. Uh, which was, I'm measuring this out to see where we got to at the highs. It was a 4% move. I don't know that it's necessarily the expectation to capture that whole move, but you can take 20% of that, 30% of that, 80% of that. You did your job, and a really nice uh, trend day in the middle of the day.
Well, let's see if I can paste this. Copy image. Let's see if I can get it onto the chat. Um,
Uh, I just realized I was talking on mute. Rich Lighton just said nat gas moves a lot slower than Nasdaq, so just keep that in mind if you are an adrenaline junkie. I'll give you those $5 right back, Coach. Um,
all
but any
right, let's
questions?
see if
Go ahead, Coach.
no, I can't get it onto the. What I wanted to show is Nat Gas. The front month at one point was up 100, almost 206. Okay, that's the Jan contract.
Okay.
The March well, let's look at the settlement. The Jan contract ended up 90 higher. Okay, the March contract was 15 ticks higher. Big difference.
Yep.
So what does that mean? It's a weather related market. I mean, it's pretty cold here in the Midwest. I don't know about New York, but it's seasonally um, very cold. Makes a big difference in natural gas. Um, the difference being right there. I mean, when you see a 4% move in the front month and 2 months later it was only up about 1/10 of that.
Right.
Um, that's why when we're talking about continuous charts, that's what can throw aberrations in there. So
Okay.
anyway, um, 2 months out, and this natural gas is barely moving. So can this sustain? I don't know. It's below the 200. I'm looking for a place to sell it. Um, if I'm wrong, I'll lose a little bit of money. If I'm right, I'll make multiples of that. But I just wanted to let our audience know that the difference in when you're trading futures or commodities that expire every month, there can be drastic differences. And in natural gas, it has open interest and volume going out into the year 2028.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and it's not a quarterly, so it's a little different. It's it's a commodity. It's on demand. I need it. When a gas company it's cold, everybody's demanding some natural gas.
Right.
I don't need it tomorrow. I don't know if anybody's ever studied the electricity markets. I'll use a phrase and it's shocking. Um, but this can happen. That's why natural gas is such a mover at times because it's on demand. I mean, it's like, yeah, I can't wait. It's cold here, right?
Right.
So that's what when you're trading commodities, especially natural gas, that those spikes can show up in the front month and not even touch a year out.
Nice.
So,
Thank you for that information, Coach. Let's see, Coach. I sent you a message. Just take a look at that real quick. I'm gonna pull up another market. Let's look at a
mhm,
micro. Actually, I'm gonna pull up. Shout out to Josh in the chat. Called out last night. We had some urgency trades in a couple of different markets. If you guys remember what that urgency trade is, it's looking for volume and price to leave a range fairly quickly. Shout out to you, Josh, for calling this out during slow markets. But here's copper, very great example of it. It's crazy because it turned out to be a negative day. But if you look at the start of the day, we were up almost 2% before we eventually turned around. So really nice move there in copper, and then I think silver, uh, very similar. Where silver last night presented that urgency trade to the upside, hit the highs of this range here, and
nice.
just turned around. And what a move! Gee, this is like a $10,000 move on a one lot in silver, which is pretty crazy. I don't trade silver; it's $25 a tick. There are micros which are $5 a tick, but a uh, a market that's moving with the other metal markets as well.
Yeah, that's another thing with urgency trades. You get 2 to 1 on that kind of risk,
Oh yeah, you did your job.
and we're talking day trading because wow, look at that. Now let's back that up to where we don't. It's at the highs. We just see what's going on at the high. Now, one thing, and maybe this. I just want to bring this as a lesson. That looks great. Sky's the limit.
Yep.
I've got caught on these trades.
Oh yeah.
Now,
Start counting your money before it's in your pockets.
we talk about getting close to volume. Close to volume versus away from volume. We're about 1 to 2 ATRs away on this time frame from
Mhm.
from VWAP. All right. I won't do it. I missed it. I missed it. The beginning of the night, I'm on it. I have to be, right? That's why
Yep.
it's an urgency trade. Now, we go one, next one, next one. Okay, now I can buy it, and now I'm out.
Yep.
That's defined as a good loss. Okay, now I'm stubborn. Well, I'll wait for it to become a scratch and then I'll get out. Let's go to the next one. Oh, fuck it. I'll just, I'll buy another one or I'll just let this count blow out. If you've ever got caught in that, that's the lesson. Take the first loss is the best loss. We talk about Rips playing poker.
Yep.
If you've been watching that, Rips is a master of just taking good losses. And he'll push it when the time comes. And that is the lesson here.
Hmm.
Don't get caught in being stubborn.
Yeah.
Um, Heck, just that first loss, you done well, son. You know what? Um, and even like I said, it always looks great at the top.
Right.
Um, Good example of that. Wow. Silver.
Agreed.
It's why I don't even look at it. It's if you can make money there, you're good.
Agreed. Agreed. Coach Hoop says like cattle today.
Yeah, that was another one that did the turnaround. Oh, look what we found. More silver.
All right. Let's see. Any other markets that we want to talk about? And
Yeah, let's look at the bonds we talked about yesterday.
all right, here are the bonds on the 30-minute. There's some urgency there to the downside as well.
Um, yeah, there was, and we talked about this yesterday. It was testing the 20-day moving average. Um, it was breaking even before the news came out.
Oh yeah,
The news just exacerbated it.
news expedites the move.
Um, that was a clean. Now there's a clean one. Now, once again, getting short at some of these lows, I still wouldn't do it. But once and you're very good at this, coach. Let it come back to VWAP. Rein in. Don't feel you have to get into a trade.
Right.
I mean, it gave you one, two, three, four, a few chances. And it extended. Um, well, there was the classic case of liquidation because it's selling, but
Hmm.
clean, a very clean and defined flow.
Yeah. Great market to trade. I know it doesn't. It's not the sexiest market. It doesn't get the most attention. You're never going to see a trade placed on Topstep TV in any of these markets unless Jack is trying to prove a point, which is a great point that most people should not be trading the Nasdaq. Um, in Jack's opinion, because it is a very volatile market. But again, we talk about it all the time. The money is green if you can make a profitable trade in any of these markets. So, um, yeah, really nice. The 30-year, much cleaner example. But here's the 10-year, which is going to cost you a little bit less. We can go down to the 5-year, which is going to cost you even less. As far as risk goes, obviously not as dramatic of an example, but much cheaper markets to trade. And it may not get you to your goal as quickly as you want it to, but sometimes we have to uh, let go of the time constraints that we're putting on success and just do what's required to get there. Uh, it may happen in a day, it may happen in a month, it may happen in a year, but you can't force a situation out of trading. And we see some of the conversation in the chat. Chat, shout out to you guys always for uh, the community that we're building here. Scott, we see your messages here. Coach, I'm going to throw that to you in a second, but I see some really good feedback. But go ahead, Coach.
Now, first, Scott, you've been with us for a while,
Yep.
and as traders, we've all been in. Most of us have been in this spot.
Yep.
Um, it's very hard. Um, the first thing I would say is don't take it personally. Um, it's you, I don't, I don't believe you suck at everything you do. Um, but find if what I would suggest to you is take some time off, take a month off.
Yep.
If you said you're poor, if you were rich, you wouldn't be doing this. So it's understood. You're taking on a challenge, and in any challenges, you're going to be tested and tested hard. Some of the greatest traders. One was a taxi driver in New York. He's in the Wizards book.
Yep.
Um, this is this like I said, I've been through it. There's times I left the trading floor and walked home 5 miles because didn't know what to think. I just like so yeah, it's a dark place. But Scott, ask yourself, take a couple weeks, take off till the beginning of the year.
Yep.
And in that time, ask yourself, do I really want to do this? And if you can't
Agreed.
afford one more combine, then
You don't need to
pick,
buy one.
you don't need to buy one. Save, do something where you can save some money, review what you've been doing, and come back if you feel you have the tools. You've been around, so you've learned something.
Hmm.
Um, but don't take it as your personal. It's personal. That one, I've been through that one, and then there are times where I took off trading alone for 2 years and
Yep.
did brokerage.
Did
Um,
something else.
because you're better than that. Um, so you take some time. You're always welcome to come here and learn some more. Um, but you do have there's something you can do that's not going to cost you any money. Review what you've been doing.
That isn't working.
There's there's something there that isn't working, and when you can identify that, you can come back, and it'll be well worth your time. It worked. That's what happened to me. I've only had to go back and this is not this isn't for the weak.
No, definitely not.
You're gonna go back, understand like, okay, I couldn't see it, but I see it now. Mine was I can take pain. I'm tough. So I'd let losses turn into destruction
Mm,
because I'm a man. I could take that pain. I'm just not right yet. No, the market's wrong. All the above. That when I and it was hard. Came back slowly and learned from that. That's why you'll hear me. I will never lose more than 12% of my equity in one day. This will never happen. Um, and there's a lesson for you when you review this, and we're here for you.
yeah. I agree, Scott. We don't get this deep in the conversations that often. Saw what you said in the chat. I'm crying right now. Hey, if that's what it takes to process the emotions of what you're feeling right now, it happens. I've been there before, sitting under my desk, legs crossed, crying about trading. It happens, and it's going to happen. But after all of that, after you process all of your emotions, it's funny because when we started doing this class, I thought uh, that I was going to let Coach Paul be the give it to you straight, and I would just coddle, but sometimes, yo, you just have to say, "Hey, what am I doing? Forget everything else. You just said in the chat that if you gave someone your trading plan, they would be rich. Okay, so what are you doing that you're not allowing yourself to execute on the work that you've provided?" And it might be the case where you say, "Hey, you know what? The way things are going, or the way where I'm sitting in my life currently, I'm not able to execute well because there's this unnecessary or added pressure that I have on myself. And when I have a clearer mind, then I'll be able to execute." Um, that's where my break in trading came from. It's just like, hey, I can't keep doing this because there's so much pressure on every decision to have to be right, that that's just unfair pressure to put on any trading decision. Um, and that pressure is going to get to you, right? It's going to get to all of us. It gets to people who aren't in your situation, right? So uh, take stock of where you are. It's okay if you need to take a break. The markets are never going anywhere. There's way too much money in the markets for them to ever disappear, right? So they're always going to be here. But we need to make sure as traders that we're in the best mindset to execute on our plans in the markets if we want to extract something to it. Because we got to think about what this is, right? This is uh, capitalism at its finest, right? So money's going from one person to another. And you have a choice whether or not you want to um, interact with that. You have that choice, right? So, like Coach said, take a break, take a step away. It's fine. The markets are going to be here. Determine whether or not you think that this is something that you're willing to put the work in to do. And then when you come back to it, understand that something has to change in order for you to um, see any kind of success with it. Uh, but thank you for sharing. You're not the only one. I'm sure of that. You're not the only one. So thank you for being vulnerable. But really, we have to decide, like, hey, sometimes it's okay to say, you know what, that wasn't for me. That wasn't for me. I'll give you an example. I coached my younger brother in basketball for 12 years, and he had an opportunity and a bunch of coaches and things like that saying, it's like, hey, you know, you could play D1 basketball based on people that we've coached and we've, you know, seen before, people that you've played with. He had to come to terms when he's going to college and making that decision. She's like, you know what, this isn't for me anymore. Fine. Find out what life is after that, if that's the case. And it might be something else. You might be preventing yourself from doing something great somewhere else because you're trying to force this to work. So that's what I'll have to say on that. It's an honest conversation that we all have to have with ourselves. But thank you for sharing that, Scott.
Yeah, Scott. And we're here. Um, one last thing I will say, it's the old saying, strongest steel comes from the hottest fire.
Yep.
Learn your lessons, come back stronger and better. I won't say stronger, better.
There you go.
All right.
There you go. And Lito says, I would have went to the NBA, but I'm 4'6". Funny, Lito. Funny, funny. You don't want to see me in a one-on-one though. I'll tell you that.
But I have a
Um,
5 foot vertical.
right. But thank you everyone for joining. We are kind of at time. I don't think we need to talk anymore about markets after that. Coach, you got anything before we go?
Yeah, very intense discussion. Um, and this is for Scott and for everyone. Yeah, this is a tough way. Uh, but someone just asked me, when's the last time you were down 12%? I really can't answer that. It was over a year ago.
Hmm.
Um, and it happens. It just stopped trading that day. Um, and one last thing is the key to this is learning how to lose well. And that's all I have to say.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Coach. I'm not going to do plugs today. Thank you everybody for joining. Hit that like button if you haven't done so already. Great conversation here as always, and thank you, Coach. As always,
Thank you.
enjoy working with you and your perspective on the markets. Because we talk a lot about the charts, but your experience outside of that is invaluable. So thank you for that,
Thank you.
Coach. I will see all of you tonight for slow markets. But remember, we do have classes in Discord as well. Coach Ray and Coach Vince at 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. Central. And then I'll be doing slow markets in place of Dakota at 7:30. Trade well, manage your risk, manage your risk, manage your risk. And we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Bye.
Thanks, Coach. Bye.